Let's now go over to Washington, where Presidents Moon and Biden concluded their series of summits as well as a joint news conference. Phil Crowther with AP International is live at the White House for us. Now, Philip, so from the Biden administration's perspective, what are some of the key takeaways and what are some of the gains from this bilateral summit?
Well, look, you might have noticed if you saw the whole of the press conference that half of the questions for President Joe Biden were about the alliance with South Korea, but also the relationship with North Korea on one side. But on the other side were still questions about the fighting between Israel and Hamas in the Middle East and the very recent ceasefire. And what you saw here was a White House that managed to again concentrate a little bit more on what it had always wanted to be its foreign policy priorities. Joe Biden didn't want the words Middle East to creep up during the first few months of his administration. He wanted to focus on China and on strong relationships with U.S. allies. You might remember that the first foreign leader who came to the White House during the Biden administration was Prime Minister Suga of Japan, then followed, of course, by President Moon Jae-in of South Korea here today. Now, when you look at the bigger picture, what the Biden administration wants is to put up as united a front as possible against China, seen very much as the big economic nemesis of the United States. Now, the Biden administration didn't get really what it wanted out of this, didn't get South Korea to put up a really strong stance against China during the press conference or in any statements made by the South Korean delegation over the last few days. So in that sense, maybe a little bit of a disappointment there for the White House. You already heard the other big topic for this administration, one of them, of course, being North Korea. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, if you will. But this was a very first show by the Biden administration of what it calls its arsenal of democracy. Now, what is that? That's the 80 million doses of coronavirus vaccine that this administration wants to give to other countries over the next few months. And South Korea becomes the very first recipient, with, as you already heard, those 550,000 doses, I should say, for South Korean service members who are working together with U.S. forces. They will be fully vaccinated. This is just one sign of what the Biden administration thinks it can do with having surplus coronavirus vaccines and how it can help some of its allies maybe get some favors back in return. This is the very first sign we saw of that kind of new U.S. soft power in action.
Right. I'd also like to know what the U.S. press, what the American press is focusing on, what their key interest is regarding this bilateral summit between Presidents Moon and Biden.
Well, look, there's a reason why I didn't talk in detail there about North Korea, because that is the topic number one for U.S. media. There is, of course, a fascination with North Korea, with its leader, Kim Jong-un, of course, after what happened during the Trump administration. Those 3 meetings between President Trump and Kim Jong-un of North Korea. There are always those questions of how this administration will deal with North Korea in the future. We know that this is an administration that has had a look at what its policy might be during this administration toward North Korea. That policy review has ended, but we still don't know exactly what it is. It will most likely lie somewhere between the outreach we saw from President Donald Trump toward Kim Jong-un and the hands-off approach we saw from his predecessor, Barack Obama. So somewhere between those two. Now, we got some concrete news here, of course, also on North Korea. The fact that a special envoy has been designated. Sung Kim is a very well-known diplomat, a career diplomat here in Washington, and somebody, of course, who has been an ambassador to South Korea in the past. Now, Joe Biden was asked about what kind of an approach he might have towards Kim Jong-un, whether there might be possible meetings. Well, it doesn't look like it, because here's the point of view from Joe Biden as he explained it during the press conference a few hours ago. He does not want Kim Jong-un, he says, to have the, quote, international recognition and legitimacy that came with those direct meetings between Trump and Kim Jong-un during the Trump administration. So North Korea and the danger posed by North Korea, again, very clearly described by Moon and Biden here in the East Room of the White House. That is still the top story here in the United States, and it is the top story coming out of these meetings between Moon and Biden here at the White House.
Right, and all in all, the kind of optics that these two presidents want to portray to the rest of the world is that there's no daylight between these two allies. All right, Phil Crowther from AP International reporting for us from the White House. Many thanks. Well done.